And welcome to Top Does. This week we have a director behind the latest animation that has taken the internet by storm. Please welcome Fable. How you doing, Fable?
Hey. I'm doing pretty good. A little sunburnt because I was spending some time playing board games outside. I was like, oh, damn, I'm paler than I thought. Too much time indoors doing work. So, yeah, doing pretty good otherwise. I mean, getting vitamin D, you know.
Hey, that's not that bad. What game were you playing?
No. Something that was like chemistry related and way too complicated. I felt like I have an easier time understanding chemistry than I did like playing that board game. I was like, I'm trying to wrap my head around this, and I'm like, oh god, maybe I either smoke too much or I'm too tired to understand this. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you tell the audience what you are the director of and what you do?
Yeah, I was the director of Lackadaisy, the pilot, and I basically herd cats for a living. So I was played the director, like producer, production manager for a while. I animated. I co-wrote it. I did some backgrounds. I did boards. I did editing. It's like it's a ridiculous amount, like too many jobs. So like eliminated like a bunch of my credits at the end because it just was like to the point of parody how many hats I had worn over the course of the project. So yeah.
You remind us of somebody that we knew that used to do everything. Hence, we kind of call him the guy that puts out fires. And that is Coltyn.
Yeah, that is largely my job on the project. Is like, there's a problem, I have to fix it. I feel like that Wallace, like making this thing was like, you know that bit from Wallace and Gromit where Wallace is on the Gromit is on the train, and as the train's like going around this little mini train, he's like quickly putting out tracks right in front of him. It's like, so he doesn't run out of track. And that was basically what I was doing throughout the entire project.
Okay. Well, anyways, audience, my name is FictionBoi.
I'm ArcaDad.
And I'm Whiplash Wolf.
Obviously the succubus and the guy that likes to think he's a daddy. But anyways.
I have embryo in cryo storage, by the way. I am, actually. I have a legal contract and everything. I just...
Not that daddy. The other one.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Technical daddy.
I have a question, Fable. So can you tell me more about that show? Is it a series? Is it a movie? Is it a fan art? Like, what is it exactly? Tell me more about it.
Well, it's not fan art. It is an official project. Like, Tracy Butler is actually involved. She helped with some guiding some of the direction. Like she co-wrote it. She was there throughout the entire project, all 3 years. So it functions as a pilot. So it's not quite an episode 1, like some people mistake it for that. But it's kind of like the Lackadaisy sampler platter, because if anybody knows, it's been a long-running comic for like over a decade now, and there's so much material. But if we tried to stuff like the first chapter into just like one episode and tried to put that out as like, oh look, it's a short film, you wouldn't have gotten to like half the important cast. So we had to like remix it a bit in order to present something that would give people a general idea of what to expect from a show in the amount of time that we had. So it's like having our main protagonists face off of the main antagonists, and like these and like the characters in the bar and like what they're doing and their main conflicts. So yeah, it was like basically a short film that hints at more to come, like the just an idea of like everything that you could get if you read the comic or if we did more animation. So yeah,
developing any characters with any story series takes a lot, because then you have to make out their flaws. There has to be more flaws than good, because no one likes an overpowered character. We get that. I just find
very important as well.
That's the hardest part.
But it is the most satisfying.
I think he
I have some random issues. Vive is actually muting my microphone randomly, so But yeah, it's like seeing the character develop, become a better person, or work on himself and like evolve is something I'm really into, and I find that really fascinating.
No, I love stories like writing them or engaging with them where the characters have conflict, and the conflict is external and internal, because it's hard to really engage with a story for me unless like the characters are kind of dealing with something themselves, because like most people are not just like perfect entities where the only problems they ever have are like, oh, it's, you know, there's going to be a thunderstorm, or if only I could just like cross this area or something. And I think that it's always really interesting when you create a narrative that has like layers of conflict in it. So, you know, in like media for kids, that's like for young kids especially, the individual kids don't usually have like a ton of variation in their conflict, but like as you get into older and older stories, then that's when you start seeing like, you know, there's more problems that someone can have, like the individual hangups you have and how that can affect how you interact with stuff. You can have a more complicated story that way, and it feels a little bit realer to me, and it's the kind of thing that I like to write and facilitate myself.
Yeah, internal conflicts is definitely a big one for each character that you make, and it also has to be very relatable to the audience. Currently, I'm trying to write my own story series, but I find, like I said, the internal conflicts with each character different, and everybody has their motive, and everybody has their own different reasons of struggle. And trying to mix that all into one story is much more difficult than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's really difficult to find that balance.
You can always like draw, you know, when they do those investigation, you could put like all your characters on a billboard.
Oh, you cut off again.
I think he's talking about like what was that
like
thing from The Office? Yeah. The what's that meme with the guy who's like, he doesn't even exist. The guy in the mailroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But making like
it's like you do that.
Like,
yeah. What's that mean?
Character chart, basically. Okay, the link with this person is this. This person, brother. This is the guy he met at the bar.
I usually will write down stuff in like a sketchbook or something freeform, so I can like doodle an idea and also like write next to it. And it's always helpful if you have a notebook on hand, and so you can just like scratch out ideas really fast. Because there's something about writing in a physical medium that helps me get the idea out faster, whether it's through boarding or through writing or just like design, and then taking that into the computer and using that space to refine it or store it so it's easier to archive and bring up again. I know I was using something called Scrivener, I think, for a while on my own comic, and that was pretty useful as a way of like tracking information. But nowadays also you have Google Docs and that kind of thing as a way to keep track of everything. But on this project, like I wasn't the initial writer. Like the Lackadaisy was actually created by Tracy Butler, so rather than me like starting from scratch with everything, this was a matter of adaptation. You know, she had already had all these characters, and creating the short was basically going, okay, what are like the key elements of this story that need to be on display, you know, besides kind of involving like, here's all these different characters, what kind of conflict are they in, what kind of like what kind of action could we expect out of a series as well, and what kind of locations could you expect. So I wanted to show effectively what I loved about the series, but in a condensed way that like felt like something that like flowed together very naturally.
Would you say that world building is one of the hardest things to do as well?
I personally love world building. I think it's just it's part of my interest even in storytelling, so it's not hard for me. It's probably harder to figure out at what point do you stop world building and you start focusing on the characters and how do they show that world, because you can't show off everything at once. You need to make sure that you don't front all the info, because like the way that you reveal info over time about your world and about like the plot at large, you know, plot in general, like that's like peppered through, like creating questions like breadcrumbs for the audience to follow, that compels them to keep reading or keep watching whatever medium you're using. So
And that
world building is just super fun. It's just figuring out which parts of the world do you show at what times. That's
Yeah,
the
you don't
hard
want to
part.
try to show everything all at once on paper.
No,
Especially
no,
like,
not at all.
like the politics of how the world is and how there's a religion aspects to it all. Things like that.
It turns into a massive info dump if you just go, here's everything to everybody. I think a better way to approach it is, and this is a good way to figure out what characters are even for, is how does this character allow you to get this lens on the world around you? You know, how that's one reason why in a lot of stories you have characters that act as like your perspective character, where they know absolutely nothing and they're the ones asking the questions that the audience would have. I think that's one reason why in a lot of isekai you have this guy who's like from another world, he's from our world, he hops into a new world, he knows nothing about anything, but he finds himself in a position where he needs to know more stuff, and this is the way that we learn about this fantasy world and like how everything works and how magic worlds and creature works and the politics and that kind of thing. So you have different characters that might represent different aspects of that, that lead our main protagonists through and teach the audience effectively through that point of view what they're going to do. The only problem with stuff like that is that sometimes that can create a situation where you have a character that's like so much of just like a blank canvas that they have no personality and no integration into the world themselves, which can be a little frustrating when you write basically a cardboard box or like a cardboard cutout of a character. It can be more difficult figuring out how your main character integrates with everything without also doing an info dump to like fill in the gaps for the audience. But it's always a good idea to have somebody who knows less so that they can like learn more over time. Not as a hard rule, just like as a tool if you find that an easier way to figure out like how do I explore this world I've created. So, you know,
it's very interesting because if with any type of series like Star Wars, for example, people will make their own assumptions about lore and how they explain it. Usually it's way more fun from a writer's perspective, having other people explain how the world works and, you know, people making their own imagination.
Yeah, because it's like they might like get something out of it, like pick up on something that you didn't even originally intend. It's like, oh, that's actually pretty clever, and you can lean into it. So
yeah, and I'm pretty sure if you ever get the opportunity to, and you know, people explain the lore a little bit from their perspective, then you might actually use their ideas. It'd be kind of fun to experience.
In an official capacity, but what I have found upon watching a lot of people watch the film and like how they're reacting to it is what I'm finding out, like what amongst the reactions, like the Easter eggs that we peppered throughout, so that we're mostly showing and not telling. Like that's a creed in a lot of writing. You show and you don't tell. We're not necessarily telling the audience exactly everything that's going on, like all the relationships. We are assuming that you have the intelligence to just like watch it and kind of piece it together, and like that engages your curiosity. And it can be, oh, damn, I rattled off. I lost track of what I was saying. Could you repeat your question? Sorry. Yeah. So
I was saying like when people make, you know, use an example of Star Wars, and you know, people that are big fans of Star Wars make their own assumptions about the lore, what's going on in these situations. Like factions and all that stuff, and explain their motives and their things. I think what people need to understand when it comes to making a story is that people need to know that, yes, these things, these small details, these factions, religions, politics makes the world come alive, but it's not the main focus either.
Yeah, you know, it like the interesting thing about that also is that that's kind of how people interact with the real world. Like everybody's always just interpreting the information that's given to them, and some stuff I guess is closer to an objective reality than others, but the truth is always like filtered through like their experiences and their emotions, and like they're gonna pick up on some things like faster than other things, or like connect with certain things way more strongly as they're engaging with some media, and that's what I've been really enjoying about watching reaction videos, is I can see everybody like kind of piecing things together, and how interesting it is to watch that, like watch people like looking at a scene and like thinking and asking questions and getting excited about something, and seeing like, oh, you know, I dropped this piece of information here and they're picking it up again over here, so I could tell like that they're like taking this ball and they're bringing it over, and I just get really excited about it because like, you get afraid as a storyteller that somehow someone's gonna like miss those details. But so it's really, really exciting and validating to see that like something you put together like had the intended effect, and sometimes even gets to people in ways that you didn't expect. But it's also really cool when you go like, I knew it, they would react that way, and you're just like really excited because you try to set up like certain kinds of emotional payoff, and it's hard to predict that, you know, if everybody would react exactly the same way, and they won't. And for that reason, some people also won't like a story that you present, but that's okay too, because, you know, if they're just not going to connect with it, that it's fine. So
like if I was to use to any kind of reaction, like if you watch Game of Thrones, which I think you've seen it, right?
Yes, yeah.
Hodor's fate, when he was his whole fate was to hold the door, and nobody saw that coming. It was the most simple kind of writing that people would expect, and it shocked me.
Yeah.
That was set in stone, and you would think, I wouldn't think something so simple would be so, you know, get a reaction out of you.
Well, I kind of like that
like
kind of thing.
that.
It's like not everything has to be deep. Sometimes, you know, even aspects of yourself are like, it's not that deep. It's like, I like the color blue. Why? I don't know. It's a nice color. Sky, water, pretty. You know, it's not that deep. I could invent a lot of lore around it, sure, but I don't know. It's just, do you like it?
One, two.
Yeah. Well, then, you okay, stream?
Sorry, I'm having massive audio issues. I've been trying to speak and nothing comes out of my mouth.
Oh.
At least it's probably not as bad as
I'm
like the
very
screen
lucky
going
tonight.
gray for me occasionally.
Yeah.
Sorry, I talked over you.
Now Jed
Oh,
is
you're
like
fine.
playing with cans right now. So
Oh, you're good. You're good.
No.
Yeah.
Ah.
I'm
the
sure you're
valve
probably
cable
picking up off
breaking.
of my mic. You're probably picking up the beeps off of my mic also, and that's like my birds who are like just outside the window in an aviary, and like they whistle and it comes right through the window. It's like, oh shoot. So anybody who's wondering, what's that squeaky door? That's what it is. They're just so clear in their... It's the birds. I have many birds. I live in Isla Nublar. If I wasn't in this weasel avatar right now, if I could have figured out Unity and Substance Painter a little bit, I'd be in a dinosaur at the moment. But yeah, that's a
really cute.
future
though.
project.
I like that.
It is cute.
Avatars.
Yeah, no, this ferret is adorable. I had a ferret once before, so I have a real like love and affinity for weasels as well. So like getting this, like I picked up this, so I just cloned it off of somebody who offered it to me. So it's just been my go-to because it's just like a nice puppet. It's like very simple, not overcomplicated, so I don't accidentally make myself look creepy with like going meh at like random times. Your face just twitches out. It's a good puppet.
I wanted to ask you another thing. When it comes to like writing a series, would you think that writing a novel is much harder than writing a script, or is it flipped around?
The thing with writing a script is that you are building a blueprint that other people have to understand. So you have to.
Sorry. Get is like climbing on me. Get. No, just all put
I think
You're climbing
I think
on him.
Stream
Nice.
Stream got a little excited there to sit on my lap.
Yeah.
Always do. Always.
I was like, I'm the big kitty now.
Oh yeah.
But you're never up for it,
Wow.
though.
You're never
Fiction.
inviting me, so I just
Yeah.
gotta freaking make my.
You had to involuntarily put yourself into my lap, right?
Yes, exactly. Pure accident. I
Wow, what a
swear.
good boy. No, it wasn't. You intentionally
up.
did it.
Hey.
Oh god, look at these two over bicker each other. Like married couple.
Always do. Makes it fun.
Yeah. It's the anniversary.
Fiction, let him
Of course.
let him have his way for once, alright? Just let him
Well,
ride
people
you.
that bicker each other, they're usually a sign of a good relationship, so that's good.
Pretty much.
He wants you to ride me, but that's not going to happen.
Oh.
Yes.
Imagine that.
Just ride him like a motorcyclist wears a helmet. Just easy slip on.
Okay. Okay. You know what, Whiplash? We love you. And we love your mouth too. But I feel like sometimes you need a bar of soap in there. Like that one episode. Like that one episode. No, hold on.
What episode? Well, they
like that, not episode. Not the cleanup episode. No, not an episode. That video that you did with Andreas on TikTok when you used Kyle and Ike's voice as a like you wash your effing mouth. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, you didn't get one of those handmade soaps, like if you get like that shea butter or something, maybe pretty tasty.
Yeah,
shea butter with basil.
Shea butter.
Yeah. My brother got me some like
his mouth. I can push it deeper down there if you want to. I can take care of that task for sure.
If you want to go ahead,
deep throat a
by all
soap.
means.
Yep. You'll be blowing bubbles.
Out of which end?
Yeah, what?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh God,
I like that.
I don't want to know that. I don't want to find that out. Oh God.
You're gonna go to the bathroom, the Marshall's gonna be like, shoot out.
I could see Ken in the back and just shaking his head. You guys are idiots.
Yes, we are. We are absolute. I don't know if I want to find that out.
But before we continue on with this, I want to give a shout out to Sakura. She just recently got in a relationship, so I'm happy for you.
Oh.
Yeah. After being single.
The celebratory confetti if I'm not gonna mess this up.
Oh no.
Yay.
Yay. Congratulations, Sakura. We love you, girl.
Romance.
You want some
Nice.
We love you, girl.
Butter,
you want some
nice
peanut butter? Maybe you can present it to your partner.
Yeah.
Use it for later.
Oh my God. Holy fucking God. I can't.
That's strike one.
When my best friend told me that she had hooked up with a guy, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you because she's so awesome. And I'm like, you deserve better than like the nonsense you've been going through. You deserve so much better. And like, you know, and finally, like she had her beau over at our place, or her future beau rather. And I was like, these two are definitely digging on each other. And after he left, I asked her, like, hey, so what was going on there? And she's like, oh, well, you know, you f***ed around a little bit, but we're not serious or anything. I was like, okay, all right.
Oh, hey, Fable, I do have to give you a little bit of warning. The profanity needs to be at a minimum because of our editor, because he'll just like, you know what, I'm not going to edit anymore, just curse. That's...
Oh, Colton?
All right.
Oh...
No, that's fine. He's already got so much to handle. Let's be respectful. I cut myself. Thank you, Jet. Wow.
Thunder.
Playing with the Coke can. I yanked the can and he tore a corner and slashed through my.
There's something
finger.
really funny about raising the robot arm and going, ow, ooh, licking. Ow, 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 ow. I always love in VR when you have like the real world and VR world like clash thing going on. There's this world that I was in the other day, or like last time I had this set on. I was in like this world and hanging out with some people, and I was walking around, and one of my parrots was out. Like he was out of his cage, and he was like walking around, and so I could hear him walking around. So I like sit down on the ground so I don't accidentally step on the little guy, because that's not fun. Let's not.
No, it's not.
So he sees that as an invitation to walk over and like crawl on top of me. He's like, oh, we're having fun now. I was like, all right, I guess that's happening. And so like I'm petting him on my shoulder as like I'm chatting with these guys, and one of the guys happened to have a parrot avatar and shrunk down and like sat on my hand where my actual bird was, and I was like petting my bird while a virtual bird was there. I was like, this is so weird.
Yeah, I had this happen to me. Every time like I'm playing VR, I'm sitting down, I'm petting my dog, and people are like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, it's Jet, he's here, I'm petting him. And they're like, oh, that's cute. And then they go to where Jet is so that it looks like I'm petting them, and they want to give head pats from me. It's like, so adorable. I love it.
It's really great. Now I wanted to ask you another question, Fable. The voice actors, how'd you guys get them, and how'd you know they fit the role they wanted to do, or you wanted them to do?
Well, in the it basically kind of began with a domino effect where I got like the first two guys, and they sent out the notice to people that they knew, as going like, hey, these guys are looking for parts, check this out. Because initially when we were casting, besides those first two guys, I had to keep everything like super on the low because we wanted to make it a surprise when the Kickstarter came out. So the Kickstarter is how we funded everything. And I didn't want to announce on my Twitter account before the fact that we were like looking to cast some folks. So initially I got on board Michael Kovac, who was probably best known as like the voice of Angel Dust in the pilot for Has Been Hotel, and I had actually done some animation on that. So we were both at the premiere of that, and I was like, I had been talking to Tracy earlier, and I was like, we're trying to figure out who would we cast first, and we decided that the two most important characters that we should cast first were basically opposite ends of the spectrum, and then finding people who kind of would balance against all that. And so we needed Rocky, and we needed Mordecai in particular. Like, those were the two that had to be like the most priority. In the case of Rocky, I was like, okay, so we need like a fast talker who has like who has more dimension than that, but it's like you had this feeling that he's like putting on like a layer, like a chaotic, like happy-go-lucky layer above like something that's like deeply depressing underneath, which is what gives him that try-hard energy. And you see like cracks and stuff like leaking out through that on, sometimes either like his genuine self when he's playing the violin and he is like more focused, so you get this more serene side, or when things are going very well and he just kind of like falls apart, so you can see just how fragile he is. And I was really impressed with Mike's performance as Angel Dust, like with just like a few previews and stuff that had come out. What he had put out was interesting because like the character is not like the most dimensional in that pilot. Like you kind of get like a surface level idea of him, but he managed to perform in such a way that with like just like a sigh or like his annotation or the timing of how he said something implied a lot more about that character than you would have gotten through just the raw dialogue. So that really impressed me because like, you want like a fast talker, like, kind of this guy who comes off as both too smart and too stupid for what he's up to. Yeah, because there's some stuff that kind of reminds me of family members, honestly. People I really, really love, but also I'm like, oh God, please occupy yourself in more creative, more productive ways than this. And he struck me as somebody who would be able to do that, but also do the second thing, and that was the key. So I basically tugged on his shirt at the premiere and was like, hey, I was wondering if you could try out for this part that I have in mind for you for this project called Lackadaisy, and would you be okay with me like getting into contact with you and like doing some tests and stuff? And he was like, yeah, sure. And his partner, Ashley Nichols, was actually a big fan of Lackadaisy, so when he mentioned it to her, she was like, do it, and urged him to actually keep in touch. And during our initial voice tests and discussions, like he just basically nailed it out of the gate. So his performance as Rocky Rickaby is more or less like how Mike sounds normally, even, which is like a little bit more rasp because life has been a bit harder. But in the case of Mordecai, he's played by Sung-Wong Cho, better known by the internet as ProZD, and he actually was recommended by Tracy because she said, oh, well, regarding Mordecai, as we were talking, like, who do you imagine he would sound like, or, his general range, she's like, there was this guy years ago named ProZD who did some fan dubs of my comics, and I always thought that he had, like, the best Mordecai to me. He's just, like, the canon voice in my head. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll go contact him. And she was like, no, he's probably like super busy. He does a lot of work nowadays. And I was like, nah, you'd be surprised. So I emailed him. I started the email with, hi, this is not a scam. Anyway, would you like to, Tracy said that you were really good as Mordecai years ago. Would you like to be the character? We're setting up a thing. And he was like, yeah, sure. He actually responded back. So that's how we became Mordecai, and only after all that I was like, okay, so who is this guy outside of those, dubs? I don't look at the numbers for people's subscriber counts or anything. I was like, okay, so let's check out like a little bit more about this guy, and I'm like, he has millions of viewers on YouTube. Okay, I see what she meant now. So,
yeah, I can see that. Wow, that could be like
well-known internet personality. Yeah, I had no idea. But yeah, no, they were both great to work with. But importantly, the two of them have a better connection to the voice acting community than I do. Like, I know tons of animators and board artists and that kind of thing, because that's been what I've done for a living for years, like since I graduated college. You know, I live out in Los Angeles, and sorry, my birds are having an argument. What are you doing? Hey, cut it out.
My dog is ringing the bell.
Hey.
To go outside.
Oh my god.
They're having an argument right now.
Yeah, we can hear it sometimes poke through your microphone. It's kind of cute.
Yes, hey boy, what's up? What are you doing? I know. And I have to whistle back. Yeah, it's a baby. There's a little mango. Hello, baby mangoes. What's up, girls? What's up?
So, I'm gonna. So, Fable.
Anyway,
what is the premise?
They got me in touch with other people. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
What is the premise of Lackadaisy pilot? I've never heard about it before. I'm very curious, though. Can you explain to me, like, what's the story? Because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who doesn't know what it is.
Lackadaisy is basically about this down and out speakeasy in the 1927 in St. Louis, Missouri. The original proprietor of the establishment, who was like the head of the gang that supplied all the alcohol and basically like wiped out the competition and that kind of thing, or made deals with the competition as, you know, whatever was required, basically. He died, and his widow took over the Lackadaisy Speakeasy, which is what he owned and operated. Unfortunately, when the guy died, everybody else most of the folks who worked for the gang were just like, fuck this, and they like scattered and spread out because money wasn't coming in anymore. You know, stuff was getting more violent. It was becoming a little bit difficult to keep the place together, and so only a handful of people stuck around. There's the band, there's one of the former hitmen who basically can't leave because like his knee got busted, so he can't do anything, and the goddaughter of the original proprietor. So that's that, and like one bus boy. So that's all who's left. So one of the jazz band members takes it upon himself to be the rum runner for the group, since there's no alcohol coming in, which means they can't get customers, which means, you know, they're just running out of money. And he doesn't want to see the Lackadaisy like go under. So he decides, yeah, I'm going to be a rum runner, but he's also like made of wet noodles, essentially. He's like not what you would expect out of a gangster. Like, he's not capable of intimidating anybody, and he gets his ass regularly handed to him as he's trying to get the stuff for the bar. So he ends up recruiting his cousin, who's far more capable with firearms than him, although kind of like a meek little guy, seemingly, until he gets a weapon. And also the proprietor's goddaughter, who's hanging around because she just has this fantasy of being a gangster herself, you know, and getting up to like all sorts of cool adventures. Basically, and then they make asses of themselves, and it does not go well because they're not very competent. And at the same time, one of the former hitmen of the Lackadaisy is trying to figure out what happened to the original proprietor. Like, why did he die? Who killed him? What happened to make like the stable situation in St. Louis suddenly like collapse and fall apart? So he joins one of the rival gangs to investigate it, and he's like digging around under the Marigold group, as it's called. And to kind of keep an eye on him, the boss of the group, who is using him to basically clear out like a bunch of competition. Like I said, things are getting more violent. He sticks like two of his henchmen with him. Seraphine Savoy and Nicodeme Savoy, her brother and sister, and they basically are something of his chaperones, babysitters, whatever, kind of keeping an eye on him, making sure that he's not going to betray the group, all while he's trying to like piece together this thing. And he's playing detective, but for something that maybe doesn't matter whether or not to solve, because it's questionable whether or not it's really worth it to keep this place alive, because it's just it's just murder and crime everywhere, as you know from history. I would hope Prohibition did not exactly stop crime, it just kind of encouraged it by creating a black market for something that really never needed to be that in the first place. So before we continue on, we're going to start off with our questions of the week, guys. So the question of the week is, what was your favorite character in the Lackadaisy pilot and why? I actually do have a list of questions actually on here. I just need to get to it. And we got some responses. So from actually Howlez right here, he actually has the Mordecai, because this means business doesn't fool around and is mysteriously intriguing, and that's why he likes him. So thank you for your answer, Howlez. And our second question was from Nicodeme, which might have pronounced that wrong. Nicodeme,
yeah, that's yeah, I'm not, that got me a little bit. So rough around the edges, knows how to have fun, and cares for his sister. That was the second one. Evie clearly in control, gets things done, and has a cheerful personality. And that was a pretty good one. And we got one from I don't know Japanese. There's a Japanese name on this one.
Maybe Sakura could say.
That's not you, though.
Oh my God, they're having a solid argument.
Sorry.
I can hear them.
The sun's going down, so it's time to scream. Yeah.
Your birds are going.
Oh, wait a minute. They're reminders.
So that you know,
Bird Edition.
the sun is falling. Yeah.
So,
they have opinions on favorite characters, too. Yeah, hi, honey.
So, actually, the Japanese, it's Rocky Starstrike. Okay. They said, hard to say. Mine has to be between Nicodeme. I keep thinking nicotine every time I say that. And Rocky.
Well, there is a lot of smoking. If you say nicotine, it's like, oh, so Zip then. the chain smoker of the group.
Rocky, because he is such a lively, crazy fella, and who knows he is crazy. But crazy people normally do not know he is crazy, and he just wants people happy. I'm gonna say nicotine again. Nicotine, however.
Hey,
Nicodeme. It's Nicodeme, right?
They smoked a lot back in the 20s.
They probably, they did. That's a good point.
Smoke? You came out of the womb and they just gave you a cigarette. You're like, hard luck, kid. Here you go. Light up.
Exactly. It's just like Europe now.
Yeah.
So it's pronounced Nicodeme, right? It's pronounced Nicodeme, right? Nicodeme.
Yep.
Okay.
You can also just say Nico.
Nicodeme.
Or you can say Nico.
It's close.
Nico, however, I am intrigued what got him from boxer to mafia, which I'm pretty sure you can answer that question.
Yeah, I believe what took him there was basically money, and his sister, who they were both based out of New Orleans originally, and they made a lot of money. He would make money boxing, and she would do tarot and psychic readings and all of that. She would kind of figure out how to monetize, her all these people and tourists and stuff, they want visions and things. I guess I'll give it to them and they give me a few bucks. But she also used that as an opportunity to gather information so that when they would go off, they would get information about various alcohol drops, and they'd be like, oh, we could just steal it ourselves. So they would go out and intercept people and basically clear them out and take their and then sell that. And they were so effective at that the Marigold gang actually ended up going hey, rather than trying to eliminate you guys, because they kept trying to send people off down there to do away with these pesky buggers, which did not work. They would just was like, oh, that did not fix it. They were just like, why don't we just hire you? How about that? So they became part of their organization, and that's how they got like wrapped up into organized crime rather than just being like thieves of their own.
Okay.
They're entrepreneurs. But yeah, they're very independent, so even though they work for Marigold, they're not necessarily loyal to them. They're just extremely effective.
Done.
No. Take care of the puppy.
I'm just watching them struggle there.
He's shredding them apart, and I'm like, no, you're not gonna do that.
Oh, trust me, I understand. My dog did. He destroyed my door yesterday.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Jesus.
He just needs to wait like 20-30 minutes, and then it'll be good to...
All right. So we're gonna say this.
Puppy wants it now.
My friend had my buddy has a mini Aussie, and it took us years to get that guy to not freak out every time she left the room. Yeah.
No.
Destruction.
This is great.
Opens up the lid, mother. Sorry
I
about
love being here. This is a show for me.
What was my first?
Anyway,
puppies are pure destruction.
Say it twice. Each curse word is a strike. You're doing worse than him right now.
One squirt. I only said one curse word.
You said two. Did you guys hear two?
Twice.
Ah, damn it.
What you gotta have is like a button where you just like tap it, so that there's like some sort of audio spike that like signals to the editor, clear that one, something like that, to make his job convenient.
I'm trying to do my best to. Anyways, guys, to our audience, subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell. When you hit that notification bell, it will alert you for the upcoming video in shorts. Also, be sure to follow us on our audio platforms and leave us a rating. That will help us. That will help us out a lot. And be sure to also join our Discord and Telegram chat. Links are all these are in the description in the link tree. So be sure to check that out. And now the floor is yours, stream.
Yes, calling all to Oliver Top Dogs fan. You want some cool stuff? You can by subscribing to our server subscription on Discord. You can become a podcast supporter today. You get exclusive raw and uncut footage of your favorite podcast episode. Join supporter meetups and talk with other podcast supporters and the team. Plus, you get a super awesome and cute paw emoji and other goodies that come with their $2.99 subscription. But wait, there's more. Upgrade to the Podcast Supporter Plus and get episode voting, supporter feedback, and live audience participation for only $5.99. You also get a sneak peek of upcoming ideas, merchandising, and more. You don't have to join the subscriptions, but it does help us out tremendously. And everybody out there who is supporting us, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. You guys are making a dream come true for us, so thank you so much.
If you do not do these things, you know what? It's okay. Whiplash doesn't need to do anything at all.
Oh, wow. Wow. I didn't expect that. He doesn't need to do anything at all.
Film me throwing him over the side of the building at FWA.
If you can somehow find access to the rooftop.
I might. I've been there. I've gone there for past 8 years at FWA. I'm pretty sure I know my way now.
Hey, I'm a security system technician. I can maybe figure a way to get you in.
You should not try to bypass the security systems of the building. That's illegal.
007 on the way to the rooftop. Let's do it. Let's do it straight.
Honestly, if they build their security system correctly, I won't be able to do anything. But if they're slacking on the job, there's ways to bypass. But most of those big places are very highly secure, so I won't be able to do it without.
But no, don't try to bypass their security protocol.
No, because I want to go back to Canada.
Are you bragging about like how good of a hacker you are?
He's not even a hacker. I'm the one who's in cybersecurity. It's my job to know how to do that, and I'm not even bragging.
I am just hoping they're using.
I just tell people what to do. Panels. That's all I do.
But there's more to me than just that. I like to sing. I also like to voice act.
Yeah,
but I'm actually Actor House is actually teaching me how to voice act, the fundamentals and everything.
Ooh, cool.
Because he actually studies film.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
I'd like to take a voice acting course myself to get a better idea of like how to better direct people in the future and that kind of thing. Just because it's always good if you know exactly what somebody else's perspective is like on the crew. And like I talk to my crew a lot, I talk to the cast a lot, trying to get like a better idea of like what kind of direction works for you, like learning what they need so that I can figure out how to communicate what's in my head to them. Oh no, he broke.
He's okay. He's just a carpet. It's okay. Just continue on. Yeah. All right, but also wanted to point out that Sakura is also an actress as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does pretty. She does
a film.
She does voice.
Oh, beautiful! Awesome.
Oh, both or just film? Just film? Okay.
Both? Just film? There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
You can let me know what films you're in.
There you go. Streams like a transformer.
I had to take him outside. He was just being annoying. I'm really sorry about that.
You're good.
Hoppers are a lot to take care of.
Here's the thing. I cannot close the garage door because he figured out how to open up the door and just walk in. So even I push him out, he comes back. He's like, I want to go outside now.
When it comes to like, so you have a basic understanding with, like voice acting and what you expect from them.
Yeah, but it was always really helpful talking to them, being like, does this direction make sense? Like, and Tracy was also there the entire time, so we both wrote the script, and it's a good idea like when you're looking at the script and you have to convey that information to the voice actor to know like what was even intended. And when you're doing script writing, you have to put in notes that say, okay, like you know, this is meant to be aggressive, or like this is meant to be like, you know, more meek, that kind of thing. But sometimes also there's like some subtext to what's being said, which is hard to communicate in a script, so it's good to have like both writers in essentially and providing like that interpretation to the voice actors. And we also had some like rough storyboards for them to look at, pieced together so that they could kind of see like roughly what was going to happen through the scene, and they had a lot of context when they were acting. And we also had the other voice actors in on a voice call with them while we were directing them, so pretty much they were just like bouncing off of each other, and as they went through different reads of the script, like acting together, then we would kind of dig down onto single parts where we felt like, okay, that needs like another read, and they'll give us like a few more versions of this, so that when I'm taking all that footage, you know, all the recordings, and I'm taking it into edit, then I have a bank of possible takes to play with, and I can stitch them together and be like, okay, like this, the way that the conversation originally went, like had a really good flow, and I can preserve that. Or I can say, I need that to actually come off like a little bit stronger this way or that way, and pick from that bank, like, okay, this one is like a little bit more in that direction, that one's in a little bit more of a direction. Because as a voice actor, oftentimes what they're doing is not just reading it and trying to not mess up the line. Like, that is just the default. That's like being an artist and being like, oh, you can draw like a stick figure, you know, that's just kind of assumed. But as an actor, you have to figure out what are all the different ways in which I could say this line, say something different, and also making that sound genuine, like what that character would actually say, and like absorb a lot of that personality and the motivations and like all the small thoughts that they have in their head and how that's externalized. So you get these actors who can just like give you so much material, and they follow your direction, like they can follow your direction super precisely, but also they're creative, and they will like come up with their own ideas. And oftentimes I found myself using their thought on a take that was their first take, like their first thought, more often than what I had even directed them to do. So that taught me a lot as well, and just like the more I basically trusted them to, like, you know, give me their best and like contribute to it, the more I got out of it. And it was really fun putting that together and just being like, oh man, there's like all this subtlety that's like implied by like how fast this character talks, or like how soon they reply to somebody else. And that was really fun. Frustrating, but fun. Yeah.
So you're giving a lot of artistic freedom to the artists, and you trust what their gut feeling, because they're professionals, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing when you do the recordings,
like they're not inventing dialogue, but how they read it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And it must be somewhat difficult, because you don't have necessarily a visual, or you're only doing your lines. You don't necessarily know what the person is going through. So making sure that the voice actor is on the same energy level must be quite something to manage and handle. And I think it's fascinating. Do you guys record like one scene in one go, or you jump like back and forth, like, okay, this take didn't end up really working, we have to redo this one? So How does it work?
Well,
usually?
if we ever had a take that didn't work, oftentimes you can only tell that it didn't work once you get into the edit. And like what you thought would work suddenly didn't work very well once you were refining the boarding process. And you're like, oh, actually, like, you know, I need this take to like be a little bit more this way. But oftentimes I would just adjust the boards to work with what they had given me. Oops, sorry, that's the foster cat that I have in the room with me. If you hear a meow, that's what that is. She's trying to get my attention. Yeah. So her name is Guppy, and she is missing her nose and her front teeth because she has a cleft palate. And my roommate found her on the street, and she's like super friendly, and I think that's the only reason why she's alive, because she can't hunt. Like there's no way, she doesn't have any like front teeth like at the top of her mouth.
Oh boy.
You know, she can't fight, she can't hunt. She probably got food just by being like a super nice cat that people would just feed, but she can't stay outside, you know, that's no good for her. So we're cleaning her up and taking her to the vet and, you know, finding a home for her. Yeah, meow. So
yeah, that's adorable though. I hope it is better than that cat.
Yeah, her name is Guppy right now because she looks like a fish that goes mwah mwah mwah. She's like a calico pattern. Yeah, super cute. What was I saying before? Oh yeah, so
you adjusted the
summary
board
of the question?
If the audio didn't quite work.
Yeah, sometimes I would adjust the board because, like, you know, their take, like, now I needed to give information to the animator to be like, here's what I'm picturing when they say a line like this, so maybe I would adjust that. But if something like really didn't work, like it was like, okay, actually out of the bank of takes that we have, like none of these worked very well, then I would call people back in, and that was called a retake. So that would be after the fact. You don't like, you know, you get as many samples as you can while you have them with you, and you try not to like require retakes, but it's just kind of expected that there will be at least one retake for like any given character, and then I might call them in separately just to do that one line read, because at that point you know exactly what you need for that one scene because you've already like cut it all together, and you know, oops, sorry, I knocked my microphone on my desk, and you know, like, okay, this will work and this won't work. And you can give them like way more specific instruction that is like digs down on like, okay, this is how we're going to adjust this. But also they can even hear how it's turning out at that point, so they get like a little bit more context, and that also helps with the performance. So a lot of times it was just trying to give folks as much context as possible so that whatever they were building up in their head was what other characters were seeing as well, so they wouldn't feel disconnected from each other.
I have a question.
Yes.
Your voice actors, where do they come from? Are they mostly from the United States, or you have them internationally around the world? What is your process for that?
Fable did mention Mark, right? He's like, is Mark even American?
Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike's American. I think he's from Ohio originally.
What's
he's
Ohio?
From Ohio. It's an imaginary place that only exists every election season.
No.
Much like my home state of New Hampshire. It appears once every 4 years.
Oh, wow, you're really close to me if you're in New
You're really
Hampshire.
close to me as well. I'm near Washington, D.C.
I'm from New Hampshire. Yeah, no, I'm from New Hampshire. I currently live in Los Angeles. There's not a whole lot of animation jobs in New Hampshire.
Apart.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
fair.
This is across the whole continent. Yeah. But, you know, there's no snow here, which I miss and also don't at the same time.
And I mean, that's fair.
I love
but
winter.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty cool that you managed to get Mike, though. I didn't expect that.
So
yeah, we got Mike, we got Sung Wong. We have two guys in Texas right now. One of the VAs actually was my roommate, and she lives in Michigan at the moment because she moved out. And then like another one of the VAs lives here in Los Angeles as well. No, 3 of the VAs live in Los Angeles as well, because this is like, you know, there's a lot of VAs in LA. There's a lot of VAs around Austin, so it's not uncommon to find out that people are living here or there. One of the guys is in Chicago. But I know that one of the VAs is actually from I think Zimbabwe originally, and he immigrated to the U.S. So yeah, you know, we have people from all over the world on our crew. Like we basically have every continent but Antarctica represented. among our crew. So that was always really hard because it's like every time zone was work time, and I would get up at like 2 a.m. and be checking my messages to see like, you know, whether or not like the folks in the UK, like if they had dropped stuff off or not. And that was kind of a bit of a I got mad insomnia, or maybe I was just taking advantage of the insomnia I had. So yeah.
I mean, that is fair.
Yeah, well, we do have one guy. We have one guy who's in the UK, one of the VAs. We have multiple other crew members who are also in Britain, but one of the VAs is actually British, but you wouldn't know it based on his performance.
Oh, he can actually change his accent?
Yeah, you know, he's Valentine Stokes. He played Zib, and he's actually British, but you wouldn't know it based on his characterization of Zib. He just like comes off. He's pretty good at an American accent.
Must have been practicing that a lot.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that concludes today's episode. But before we go, Fable, wouldn't you like to have the honors of, you know, advertising your social media?
Oh yeah, you can find like basically all my social media at fablepaint.com, and I'm FablePaint on Twitter and Tumblr, on DeviantArt. Like, I still have my DeviantArt. I don't update it, but it's there. But the website's a good place to find out about anywhere I am. On Twitch, I'm Fable_FablePaint, and you can actually find my Twitch by clicking the Coop Cam, and on my website. And you can actually see my birds live, possibly right now when the episode comes out. So I have a live cam of my birds, and sometimes I'll stream some work. But also, you can find the project at Lackadaisy.com. The original comic and the original comic is available for free to read by Tracy Butler there. You can access the devlog of the film at littledaisycafe.com, and you can watch the movie over at YouTube if you just type in Lackadaisy or look up Lackadaisy Comic, that channel. So yeah, it's hard to miss. Lackadaisy Pilot. It's yeah. If you're like, how do I spell Lackadaisy? It's just, you know, lack and then the flower daisy. That's it. So.
All right, that should not be hard for people to remember.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me. This was fun to do. It's like I haven't done a VRchat interview before. I get to have my little weasel on display.
We're quite.
I mean, we're not technically the first ones to do it. We're not the first ones to do it. No, I didn't think
it was my first VRchat podcast. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Slowly sounding more like a talk show.
Maybe at some point, we'll see.
I mean, I guess if you did the podcast like if you did a podcast like in a really interesting room, and then we were just meandering around and talking, that would be a little bit different.
Oh yeah, it'll definitely be different. But anyways, before we head off, we got one more week until we go to FWA, where we have 2 panels: safe for work and not safe for work. We're totally ready for that.
So much stuff to get ready. I'm still not anywhere close to being ready to go to FWA. I got so many things to do.
All I gotta do is toss my boy into the. It is 10 days. Okay, actually, wait, Wednesday.
Oh dang!
It's 9 days for me.
You guys were asking, "Are you gonna be at FWA?" It's like, I wish.
But if you were, we would love to have you.
Midwest Fur Fest or something. If I can get the money, if I can fly out there, that'd be really cool. Because that's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, you know, thank you for being on the show, and you know, guys, we'll see you next week. And
take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That's a wrap.
I was gonna say, Fable. If you want to, BLC is close to you in Reno. That's a very good con.
Oh yeah. Like, I've been there once before. I've been there once before. It was pretty cool. Yeah, was it once or twice? I forget. Yes.
But don't jump, by the way. Don't bounce. We still gotta take a picture.
Okay.
Right, Paul, I sent you the invite too.
But yeah, Fable, especially for MFF, reach out to me and Z, because we definitely want to help if at all possible.
Oh, absolutely! Especially since you guys are in the area. It's like I have so many friends in the area, and that was one of the first cons that I ever went to. So I love it.
Chat in the middle of a podcast.
No, that was beautiful. You get to make
I'm gonna try to get the MFF myself too.